I want that like be a fly on the wall in every healthcare founder's, office or garage or kitchen or co-working space, wherever they're launching this, really understand what makes them tick. That's a piece of why I've been focusing on this this global strategy, because innovation happens everywhere. Healthcare innovation happens everywhere. And, I think healthcare is a universal need, universal problem. So, if we find an awesome cancer therapy that, here in Los Angeles that, can save lives in Los Angeles, this can also save lives in New York and save lives in London and save lives in, Johannesburg.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Business of Learning podcast. My name is Joao Camargo, and my guest here today is Dave Whelan, who is a venture consultant at WaveMaker Three-Sixty Health. Dave, thank you so much for being here today. I'm excited to have our conversation.
No, likewise. Really appreciate the time. Excited to dig into venture capital, healthcare, and more.
100%. So why don't we start off with you just telling everyone a little bit more about yourself, a little bit more about WaveMaker, what you guys are all about, who you help, and any further context you'd like to share for the listener.
Absolutely. That's a dangerous question. That could go a long way, but I'll keep it as brief as possible. So I like to say that I'm a tech guy turned business guy turned health tech business guy. So I actually studied artificial intelligence in college back in the 1900s. So there wasn't a lot of market for AI back then. So, ended up in the business world, eventually went to business school at UCLA, which is how I ended up in Los Angeles. And somewhere coming out of that, I've ended up at what I call the intersection of technology, health, and wellness. So I did some work in the wearable space and got excited about healthcare data, did some work in the genomic space, got excited about genomic data. And then, next thing I know, I'm working across healthcare technologies, including, cancer diagnostics and synthetic biology and healthcare data and analytics and things like that. Working with startups, working with academic institutions and research organizations, and working with ecosystem organizations. And I was running an organization called Bioscience LA in Los Angeles for a few years, nonprofit that's kind of connecting the ecosystem. And one of our partners there was WaveMaker Three-Sixty Health, which is a now 7, almost 8-year-old venture capital firm based in Los Angeles. It's LA's first healthcare only venture firm that was really launched to be, to invest in healthcare broadly. So, med tech, digital health, tech-enabled services, healthcare IT, a little bit of, I'll call it research tools. We don't invest in biotech. We don't, invest in biology, wet technology, new molecules, but everything else is really fair game. And it's really about building companies that are addressing precision healthcare to deliver more value to the healthcare ecosystem, whether that's the patient, to the physician, to the payer. And I've been involved as a advisor, collaborator for a few years, going back to my time at Bioscience LA. And I've been very involved over the past year as a consultant. We're raising a third fund right now. And my goal is to create more of a international network around that third fund. So how do we start to bring some new non-US LPs into the fund, leverage those LPs to open up deal flow from various parts of the world, and then over time have kind of a stronger network that helps companies kind of come in and out of the US market around the world.
Yeah, 100%. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that context. And I think we briefly chatted in our first conversation about how health is something that I'm personally very passionate about. So anything that's new, or maybe not even new, but starting to get the awareness fairly recently, is something that really excites me. So I would love to hear from you, when you are working with these different types of health tech, telemed, med tech, whatever empty category blank slotted in, right? What do you think are some of the biggest mistakes that these companies make that maybe blinds them to have the proper vision and the right execution to grow their business? Or maybe that the simple mistakes that they think it's the right way of doing things, but it's actually not the right way of doing things. What are some of those patterns you see?
Yeah, so I'll kind of divide this into. I mean, there's broadly there's two classes. I'll call them. Some of them are startup problems, and then some of them are healthcare technology startup problems. And
Hmm.
I see probably more. I feel like more than average. What I see with health tech startups is at the early stage, there's a disconnect between the market need and the technology, right?
Yeah.
So we aren't even at product market fit yet. We're just at like, okay, we have this cool technology, we think it can be applied here, but it turns out the founders don't necessarily understand the problem. What are really the
Hmm.
pain points? And some of that comes from healthcare is absolutely one of these industries where um, I love the fact that there are technology innovators coming into healthcare to create new businesses,
Hmm.
and we want to encourage that. That said, you know, there are plenty of successful music technology or marketing technology or SaaS technology
Hmm.
founders
Hmm.
who they've created a great company, they've made some money, they've exited, and now they're like, I want to tackle healthcare. And I don't want to say no to those people. We want them, but we
Yeah.
need to help them really understand,
Uh-huh.
who is the customer, how do you identify the real gaps? And then that leads into my second part, which is even
Hmm.
experienced healthcare innovators face this is uh healthcare is an incredibly complex industry. So you've got regulatory environment to navigate. You have reimbursement environment to navigate. More than that, you've got if you think about selling, I'll say a consumer product or service where it's
Hmm.
like you know exactly who your customer is, you know how to reach them, and you just have to convince them that 9.99 a month is worth it for this thing, or $100
Sure.
is worth it for this thing. Even in SaaS, you kind of understand the market. When you get into
Hmm.
healthcare, you've got you have the patient, you have the physician, you have other clinicians and practitioners who are touching this. You have the IT team at a hospital, you have the finance team at a hospital,
Yeah.
you have the hospital CEO,
Yeah. It's
you have
endless
the
layers.
engineering
Endless
team.
layers. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's endless layers. It's really this like mesh network of different connections. It's like a matrix, like a three-dimensional or four-dimensional matrix.
Yeah.
Figuring out where to plug into that and understanding, like I've been a mentor and advisor for the Cedar Sinai Accelerator for for its entire I think 10-year history now. And part of what I love about that is companies that come into that accelerator, they get immersed in this amazing hospital, Cedar Sinai, and they might come in and they think, okay, I've got this technology, and I think it is I think the you know pediatrician, pediatric medicine is like they're gonna love this.
Yeah.
And so they show up, and yes, they're going to meet with that team, but they're going to meet with oncology, and they're going to meet with IT, and they're going to meet with procurement, and they'll come back after a couple of weeks of that, and they'll be like, yeah, maybe pediatric medicine is not the place for this.
Hmm.
I think we found the right way to plug in. And so you come in thinking you're selling product A, to customer A. It turns out you're actually really want to be selling product B to customer, Z or something like
Yeah.
that.
Huh. Yeah.
And that you only get that when you can immerse yourself in a market like that.
That's interesting because I think in a lot of ways, it can be a situation in which they have this great idea. They think it's going to be a great fit.
Yeah.
They like everything is perfectly set up internally, or they at least the perception of it is.
Yeah.
And then as soon as they try to send that externally to the market, it's like, oh, maybe this isn't something that people want, or maybe this isn't something that the people that we thought wanted actually
Right.
wanted. So when going through that process, and I believe, correct me if I'm wrong here if you disagree, but a lot of that would happen through, yes, the market research, but through the marketing that happens and trying to get that messaging out and the right offer, et cetera, et cetera. Do you think that a lot of them also just have, call it the lack of knowledge or the lack of expertise to position their product, their services in the right way, with the right messaging, with the right offer to the possible customer? Do you think that plays a part there?
I mean, I think it absolutely does play a part. I mean, and again, it's more complicated. So there's more, there's more nuances there. And so I think,
Mhm.
As prepared as you think you are, you're not prepared enough, and you've got to,
Mhm.
spend more time. And that comes up even for serial entrepreneurs, where they think they've done this before in healthcare. And so they're like, okay, I know healthcare, I know, but then you start working on a new technology and you realize you're going through some different paths.
Mhm.
And I think the other piece that comes into that, kind of drawing some ties back to the traditional tech world, is if you think
Mhm.
about, what are some of the words or phrases we constantly hear in the tech world. And we talk about disruption. We talk about,
Yeah.
Facebook, like, move fast and break things, right?
Yeah.
Um, you can't do that in healthcare. I mean, you don't want to move fast you want to move fast maybe, but you don't want to break things, because, like,
Yeah.
people die when you break things in a
Yeah. That's
health.
not good. Not good.
Like disruption needs to be very focused, very concentrated, and
Mhm.
happen over a long time period. And
Mhm.
if I can, if I can be so bold as to, put in a plug for, hopefully your listeners realize that hopefully they listen to some other podcasts as well, right? So,
Yeah.
and interesting, there's a podcast that, the Acquired podcast,
Okay.
covered a company called Epic, a couple months ago. And, Epic is this massive electronic health records company. And, whether we all know Epic, whether we know it or not, because, most of us end up, we get our medical records through Epic.
Mhm.
You log into something with Epic. And,
Yeah.
you know, Epic, it took a long time to be this dominant market force. And, there was no way Epic could come in and just, like, take over the industry overnight. It took a
It's a
lot of
process.
small moves over time. And
Mhm.
so, um, and that's different from, say, if you look at the revenue and customer trajectory of
Yeah.
of an Epic compared to, say, Microsoft. And Microsoft and Epic were founded roughly around the same time.
Mhm.
Yet, we all had heard of Microsoft and all had heard of Bill Gates a lot earlier than we ever heard of Epic. And, like,
Yeah.
most people have never heard of Judy Faulkner, who is the founder and CEO of Epic, even though
Yeah.
she is arguably the most successful, self-made female tech founder in the history of technology.
Yeah. Call it a very good title, I would say. And yeah, it's
Yeah.
interesting how a lot of these entrepreneurs who are, I won't call it stealth mode, because realistically, like, if I was them, and like, if, and just as we are, I am me and you are you, like, we are in our everyday life, like, oh, I'm putting the work, I'm doing everything that I can, always, always, always. But from the outsider, it's like they can be like this stealth mode person that's just doing the shadow work and nobody sees it. And then you look at them 2, 3, 5, 10 years later down the line, and you're like, whoa, this is huge. This is like an amazing accomplishment.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it sounds like
Yeah.
her as
By,
well.
by the way, just to spend more one thing on that, because I think it's an interesting angle, like, back
Yeah.
to, like, how do these things happen? Ultimately, you could look at this and say there's a lot of reasons that, Epic was able to do this. But
Mhm.
one of the biggest ones was, a combination of there was the High Tech Act that, happened during the Obama administration, and then there was the Affordable Care Act, right? So there are
Mhm.
two major pieces of legislation that happened during the Obama administration. Those two things combined, created the perfect market situation, and really the pull,
Mhm.
which is, we all, as entrepreneurs, we all want to be able to, like, create that pull, right? I mean, like,
Mhm.
you can do the push as long as you need to, but at some point you hope there's the pull.
Yeah.
Um, it takes a while in healthcare. They were right place, right time for that to happen. And so, I think, you know, things are constantly changing. And even, a collaborator of mine here in LA, wrote a book several years ago that was basically called, like, From Obamacare to Trump Care. Right? This was, soon after Trump was elected for the first time.
Mhm.
And he was basically writing this book about, like, okay, you took advantage of market forces with Obamacare. Um, now we have a, a completely new administration with a very different viewpoint. Things are going to change. How do you take advantage of those market forces?
Mm.
Again, that applies in any business, but I think
Yeah.
where things really can, the pendulum can swing very dramatically. And if you can figure out a way to, gain customers, make money, do a good thing
Yeah.
in this market and in that market,
Yeah. Leverage it.
you're in great shape.
100%. Dave, I have a possibly bad question to ask you.
All right.
And I've heard in school so
No
many
bad
times.
questions, only
Yeah, no bad exactly. Yeah. The bad thing is to not ask a question, but this might actually take the cake. So, I because of your experience in all of the different companies you've worked with, every single company owner, founder, CEO that I speak with, they all have their own biases based on what type of business they have, B2B or B2C. In your opinion, in the health tech space, what do you think is the easiest, the hardest, or the most challenging, whatever term you'd like to use here, in the health tech space? A company that has a B2B offer or a company that has a B2C offer to scale, grow, and maintain that sustainably?
So just broadly speaking, in those two categories, what's tougher? Or
Yeah, just very vague. So very broadly, I know that there's a million intricacies within all of those that we go about the procurement and the red tape and all these things. But
well, yeah, I mean, I'll sort of, so you know what, I'll not a bad question, and I'm going to give you an answer, maybe different than you're expecting, which is, I think there's opportunities in both areas, and there are massive consumer opportunities, especially now. Again, back to one of the other things that kind of emerged from the Affordable Care Act was this idea of patients taking healthcare into their own hands, and so that is very much a thread that still exists today. Whether it's choosing insurance on the in the marketplace, or focusing on on healthcare data, or just like consumer health and wellness. At the same time, there are massive opportunities in the enterprise world. I think what is toughest is being a company that is trying to do both, and I do see a lot of companies that do that, and they do that early on, where I'll meet with a company. They'll be pitching on the venture side, pitching on a in an accelerator pitch event, and they're like, here's our consumer strategy, here's our enterprise strategy, here's this. And it's just like, first of all, you can't do it all. Even later on down the line, you might not be able to do it all. But because of the regulatory story, because of even claims that you can make, I mean, that's something we don't have time, nor am I an expert enough to really dig into it. But we've all now grown accustomed to my kids who are 11 and 14. They love to make jokes of the all of the prescription drug commercials on TV, right? Full 60 seconds of unfortunate side effects that may or might not occur, which almost always includes death, right? And it's just like, first of all, that didn't exist once upon a time. You couldn't even advertise things like that. But how do you make the right claims? What claims go on your packaging? What claims go in your marketing? Make it even more complicated when you start to be in that, are we a consumer product or service? Are we a business product or service? And so, pick one of those, and make a difference. And then over time, you might be able to expand the other way. And it might not be with the same company. It might be with a sister company, a subsidiary. You spin something out, you license some technology, but keep it simple.
Yeah, no, that's actually the perfect answer.
Awesome.
I don't know, that's not what I was expecting, but it was the perfect answer, because indecision is always a decision in any case, right? So like being in and out, 1 foot in, 1 foot out, and what if I do this? What if I do that? It's like, no, just make a decision. They can both work. Just make sure that you actually focus on either of them. So
and again, to some extent, that's also classic, just lean startup manifesto.
Exactly.
Say no more than you say yes. And keep on focusing until you have the, the smallest possible thing that you can do really well that will make a difference and,
Yeah.
move the needle and hopefully, bring some revenue in, and then you
Yeah,
grow.
100%. Yeah, I agree. And I also didn't help with a very vague question. So there's that. I wanted to ask you about internally too. So looking at WaveMaker and the firm itself, what are some of, and I'll frame it in the way that I've been framing this question for almost every single guest that I have on.
Mm-hmm.
But let's say this, looking at the growth of the firm and finding more businesses to take part in, what are some of the biggest challenges that you see that you guys face to keep that growth coming? And this is the caveat that I do with everyone, which is, let's say you had a magic wand and you could just wave one phenomenal, amazing magic wand to solve one issue, an obstacle, a challenge, whatever it is internally that would allow you to grow the firm predictably, sustainably, repeatably. Sorry.
Yeah.
What's that one thing you'd like to solve? Wave the wand, get solved. What's the one thing?
Yeah. Well, I think, ultimately in the world of venture, it's, you could say it's like, look, you want to make the right picks, right? You want to, support the right companies. I think everyone wants that. And that takes, it's a combination of skill and luck. And, there's a bit of a numbers game there. I think what, that magic wand, it's really, and this is going to go into like the strategy I'm working on, but the magic wand is really like, I would love to be able to see, see these founders, you know, a month, a year, like before I need to, and start to understand who they are, what makes them tick, what they're passionate about, why they're solving this problem, to really understand the market and to be able to start to place bets earlier, or at least be more prepared to place the bets. And that's
you need to know them, it sounds like.
Yeah, exactly. And and again, if you like, when you say magic wand, I'm actually thinking it's maybe it's too much Wicked and all these Disney movies and things like that, but like literally it is like having the crystal ball or the magic mirror to be able to I want that be a fly on the wall in every healthcare founder's office or garage or kitchen or co-working space, wherever they're launching this, to really understand what makes them tick. That's a piece of why I've been focusing on this this global strategy, because innovation happens everywhere. Healthcare innovation happens everywhere, and I think healthcare healthcare is a universal need, universal problem. So if we find an awesome cancer therapy that here in Los Angeles that can save lives in Los Angeles, this could also save lives in New York, and save lives in London, and save lives in Johannesburg. And so how do we then start to think about, okay, well, if I can't find that awesome technology here, where can I find it? Who's doing something? And so it's both casting a wider net, but also really finding ways to plug into some ecosystems, plug into some other innovation hubs in a way where we start to really get a sense of what's happening there. Because I also do believe that it is a little bit of the way to achieve that magic wand is to get out there a bit more, and turn over stones that have not been turned over before, really.
Yeah, putting yourself out there, trying to have those talks, sending those messages, doing all those things that sometimes can feel like they are useless. And I won't use the word useless, but just call it annoying to do, right? We all hate to do it, but are like the minor things that lead to the massive results on the back ends. Yeah, that's awesome. I love that answer. And then I have a final question for you here, Dave.
Yeah.
Which is actually not a question from me. It's a question from our last guest to you, and they had no idea who you were. So,
oh wow, is this some foreshadowing? Do I need to be thinking about not only an answer to this question, but I also need to be thinking of a question.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You will be needing.
I
You will be
appreciate
needing.
that. Appreciate the heads up. All right, let's go.
There you go. So here's the question. Are you ready for it?
I'm ready.
I haven't heard this one yet. When do you sleep well?
Wow. The easy answer is never. The easy answer is never. The next layer of the answer is, on some level, always. But and what I mean by that is, so there's, I think, first of all, there's this. I'll answer it two ways. I do sleep well when I'm working with awesome people on awesome challenges, and I feel like I'm making a difference, right? So I will sleep better when I'm doing good stuff.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean I'm hugely successful, doesn't mean got a lot of money in the bank, right? It's like I'll sleep well when I'm doing good stuff. And then I'll flip it around because I do work in healthcare, and I also, I will make sure I sleep as well as I can, because that is absolutely it that might be the biggest superpower we all have, or the biggest untapped opportunity is improve our sleep. We can all improve our nutrition, we can all improve our exercise, we should, but improving your sleep is probably the the number one driver of success and everything, happiness and everything, whether it's at home, at the office, just feeling good about life.
Yeah, I would actually agree with you. And are you familiar? I'll add this thing as well. Are you familiar with the statistics of when we have daylight savings and the risk that comes with that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I don't know exactly, for anyone that's listening. I don't know the exact numbers. I believe it's 23%. So when we lose an hour of sleep during fall, is that what it is? Whatever it is.
Yeah. No, it's in spring, because you spring ahead. So the clock.
Whatever. Yeah. Whatever the one is, whichever one it is. When we lose that hour of sleep, I think it's cardiac deaths, or the risk of it goes up by 23%, I believe it is. And then when we gain that hour of sleep back, it consequentially goes down that same amount.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. And then even, things tied to that. So I've been, I wear, I don't know if you can see them all. I do wear a lot of wearables and use wearables, or
there.
But I've been playing around with the Whoop band recently, which my wife is a big fan of, and got me hooked on. And Whoop Whoop does some really good sleep tracking. And one of the things that it reminds me that other things do is that daylight savings time issue you're talking about, we actually face a version of that. Most of us face a version of that every week, because we've got, at least for traditional people, we've got 5 days of getting up at a certain time, going to bed at a certain time, and then we have 2 days of
throwing it all out,
maybe sleeping later, and basically everything will say, it's okay to do a little bit, but sleep in half an hour to an hour on the weekends. Don't sleep in 3 or 4 hours, because you're just you might think you're feeling better that day, but you're not, and absolutely you'll feel really bad on Monday.
Yeah, completely agree with you. And one of the cool facts, and we're going on on here, but
expert either, but
but one of the few facts, I'm a huge fan of listening to Dr. Matthew Walker.
Oh my god, with the
guy, right?
His thing with his Huberman,
man, was so good.
10 hours on sleep. So everyone good. Take your 10 hours and listen to that too.
Yeah, it was good. Yeah, it was so amazing. But one of the most interesting things that I've learned from him is so simple, is that you cannot catch up on sleep. There's nothing you can do for it. You will not be able to do it. You can lose, I'll sleep an extra hour tomorrow or on the weekend, as you were saying. That hour is gone. There's nothing you can do about it. So that's such an interesting thing to me, but not to go on forever here, Dave. Thank you so much for your time. This has been such an incredible conversation. Where should people go if they want to learn a little bit more about you? Also, of course, a little bit more about WaveMaker 360 Health.
Yeah, so WaveMaker 360 online at WaveMaker360.com. And then I am online pretty much everywhere as DJ Whelan. So whether it's on LinkedIn, Twitter, Threads, whatever, I'm pretty much there that way. So you can find me that way. And always happy to connect on LinkedIn.
Amazing. I will leave everything down here in the description for everyone who wants to check that out. And if you're still listening to this conversation and you want to hear more conversations like this, please hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you on the next episode. Thank you so much for your time, Dave. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. It's a lot of fun.